Sweet Christmas.
Shout out to my birds.
Hi, this is Che,
Hi, this is Cory.
and this is the Next Time On podcast. A weird intro for you guys today because
Yeah, so we did a thing where we recorded half of our episode yesterday with the intention to continue the episode today. We thought it was going to be a quick little thing and we were going to end the episode out. But because we are who we are, we decided to go for an hour and a half with our discussion. So today we're sorry for the weird episode and the weird intro. Today we're going to be talking about Panel Syndicate's Friday and Bad Karma, as well as we're going to have a good discussion about Dune as well. It's a really funny and good episode, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah,
Jay, will you do our plugs?
yeah, and also if your podcast feed updated weird or whatever, and you missed the other one, we're basically releasing these at the same time. So there's another episode where we talk about a full slate of really good comic books. You can check those out. But as Cory said, the plugs are as usual. Please go rate us 5 stars. Really helps us out. Helps people discover us. Also, the new plug added to the list that I keep forgetting, but I will try to remember. In the description is the URL to the YouTube video, or to the YouTube channel. Go check out the YouTube channel. Go subscribe, because once we get a certain number of subscribers, I can change the URL so that I can actually plug it. It's supposed to being a weird string of letters and numbers.
That would be very fun. And also, guys, it's really easy to subscribe to YouTube. You probably subscribe to a bunch of other stupid shit. Just click the fucking button. Who cares? Just press the button.
Just press the button.
I think we're not supposed to curse in the first minute of it, though.
There's gotta be any ads on this yet. There's like 3 viewers. No. We'll worry about that later.
Fair. Thanks, guys.
But you can also, we can also find all of our archive writing, all of our podcasts, all that good stuff at nexttimeon.net. And now we're going to do a weird cut because the beginning of the podcast is stranger than usual. But you guys should enjoy it anyway. So,
yep. Thanks, guys.
And we're back.
What's up?
For like the third time. We're back. Eagle-eyed listeners, insane sentence. Eagle-eyed viewers will have picked up on the fact that Cory and I have both changed clothes, and one of us has changed locations.
Yes. Well, it's across the room, but technically it is a change of location.
Yeah, technically a change of location. So what you're saying is I was right when I said that.
That's true. I'm waiting to get my giant green screen so I can have the whole late night fireplace set up.
Please. If you get a green screen and then you just put a fireplace behind you, I'd be very disappointed. What a waste of a green screen.
What would you want me to put behind me?
Just the gaping mouth of the sand snake.
Absolutely not. No, thank you. I refuse. That thing is so cool to look at, but at the same time, like, I don't want to look at this anymore. It's a weird combination of things. But no, this is because we both had movie tickets last night. And
yes, we had to run out the door after the first part.
Yeah, I literally had the trailer started by the time I got to the theater, and I left like immediately after this. But we will talk about Eternals next week, which I just saw. Che has not seen it yet.
I have Sunday tickets for Eternals. I saw it last night in Soho. Last night.
My quick review. I liked it. Starts a little slow, but I liked it overall.
Controversial opinion, apparently.
I know. Cory liked the movie. It's not super. It doesn't feel very superhero-y, which is. I knew that going into it. I kind of felt like that was the gist of it, but
it's what we've been saying for 6 months leading up to this. Is that the woman who directed Nomadland and The Rider probably wasn't going to make Iron Man 2.
No,
it just probably wasn't going to work out.
Yeah,
that way, so.
It feels like a lot more like. It's like kind of, what's like, I guess, middle, just regular kind of sci-fi-esque. I was about to say high concept, but it's I guess it's a bit high concept. But it felt more like a sci-fi film rather than like a Marvel superhero film. To the point where, I mean, like, besides some offhand references, it doesn't even seem to be like, it doesn't really connect itself much to the other movies.
Yeah. But yeah, like we said, we'll talk about that later. Right now we're getting back into our comic book discussion, which for you guys will have happened about 30 seconds ago, and for us will have been... I'm not going to do the math. Hours and hours ago.
Yes.
But we're jumping back into 2 Panel Syndicate books that we have both been really loving, but haven't got a chance to talk about in a while, partially because Panel Syndicate really fucking around and not dropping shit when they need to. I'm just kidding. I know. There's lots of comic books out there. But first up, we'll be talking about the 4th issue of Bad Karma. This is the Alex de Campi book. Alex de Campi, most famous for Twisted Romance, Dracula motherfucker from last year, which a lot of people really liked, and I have to admit, Corey, have you read it yet?
I have not actually. No, I have not got a chance
I wasn't
to
a
read
big
Dracula,
fan of it. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on it if you ever get to it. And also, Archie versus Predator, which we did a conversation on once, I think.
I forgot that we read that. I remember reading it and remember being very not disturbed by it, but it was just so confusing by it. But
those are 3 very different books, actually, and actually
a little bit
quite different from Bad Karma. It's de Campi is a very interesting writer, who we talk about sometimes people who have obviously very distinctive styles, and she has a no style. Not no style makes it sound like it's a bad thing.
There's no
She's not beholden to a genre, which I think is really interesting.
Yes, I think that's a very because I think even we were just talking about Tynan and how all his books are semi-different, but at the same time you can point to a book and be like, oh, I see his influence there.
He's got a mood at the very least. Also, before we get into the discussion, this Ryan Howe and Dee Conniff did the art for this. I don't know Ryan Howe, and I looked up their name. I don't really recognize any of their credits, but Dee Conniff, obviously a pretty established comic book artist, most famous probably for Crossover with Chip Zdarsky and Redneck with Donny Cates, a book I don't know if we've ever actually talked about on this podcast, but Corey and I both really like. If we did, it's been years, because Redneck's been running for
guys,
a while.
Sometimes I just gotta say, guys, we probably read at least 100 different books a year.
Yeah,
at least
that's a conservative.
Probably at least 100 different titles a year. So sometimes I just fucking forget about books. It's hard. I really should just have a spreadsheet where I'm can point to things just to keep myself.
There's a Google Doc. I give Corey a Google Doc at the beginning of every year.
You give us a Google Doc.
Corey doesn't use it.
No, I use the Google Doc. It's just when you mention a book, I'm like, did I read that? The name is familiar to me. I'm like, yeah, Redneck. And I'm like,
I'm going to post a screenshot of the Google Doc, and I will put Corey on blast.
For what? I reference it all the time. I referenced it in our previous discussion. How dare you? I'm just trying to, in my own brain, recall Redneck, and I cannot. So
Redneck is the vampire country bumpkin book. I don't really know how to describe it.
That's really that. You know what's honestly, Che? That's not even very
No, it's
that's not. But I'm saying that's not even accurate because there's several vampire books that take place in the middle of the South.
Yeah.
There's no. Listen, I'm not. People have. All these are very different from each other, but it's hard sometimes to remember which book is which.
Well, either way, that's what Dan Conniff
Too many vampires.
is most famous for.
Get out of no more vampire comics.
Don't know how we started talking about.
It's your fault.
Redneck. Bad Karma is a book about 2. Is retired the right word? I'm just going to use it. Retired military officers who have discovered that a hit that they did years ago has been blamed on a black civilian who is in prison and in prison and on death row and will be executed if they don't do something about it. And in the 4th issue of this book, which I don't know when the last time we talked about this, but there's 5 issues now. In the 4th issue,
it's been a long time.
Yeah, they finally managed to rescue the prisoner, and but obviously that's not where it ends because they have to go against basically the entire system. The thing that we like about this book is it started off felt pretty lighthearted, and it still is. It still is lighthearted. I mean, there are parts of Bad Karma that are quite funny still. This bromance is, I think, one of my favorites in comic books. It says something about men and our fragile selves, that basically the best person writing male friendships is a woman. I don't want to read too much into that because it'll just make me feel bad.
Che, I hate you, and I don't respect anything that you have to say, nor do I respect your feelings.
Love you too, man.
This is why we do this. This is why we do this podcast, because I don't respect you.
But I think the the fifth issue is where the story and the friendship, this relationship between, I never remember their names. Do you remember their names, Corey?
Why do you
I'm
have
gonna
to
look
do
them
this
up.
to me?
I admit
I just talked about I can't remember fucking titles, and you're asking me to remember names. Come on.
I'll look up the names, but it's where the story and the friendship really reaches a head. I think my favorite page in this book is where one of our heroes admits to being in love with his friend, to which his friend says, "No, you're not." I'm going to bring up the page on screen right now for people who are watching the video. We've got, "I love you, man. I'm in love with you." And then I think my favorite page of the year so far is the next page. We get, "No, you're not. Name one time another guy gave you a boner," which is just not a thing you should say to a friend who has just expressed love to you, being in love with you.
I don't think he actually is in love with him though.
No, of course, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
He says David Bowie doesn't count, neither does Prince. And then he says, "You know what? Fuck you." It's just it's great writing.
It is. No, it's good. It's good writing, because it's funny to me that like you are right about the whole like male friendship thing, that he just feels so like it's just like that's in his brain. It's just like, friend, that must mean I'm in love with you in his brain. That it's like kind of like there's a very big disconnect there.
I think there are a lot of people, men, and I think probably also
Absolutely.
women, who, and everybody in between, who have never really been able to, or never really been exposed to like genuine, non-romantic relationships that are really rewarding. And then when you get in one, you're like, oh, I guess I'm in love with this person, but it's not. You could just love somebody and not have to be
In love.
romantically attracted to them. Yeah, which I think one of my favorite parts of this book is the fact that these guys are clearly closer than anybody in their life. One of them is married, one of them has an ex-wife, and both of the women they've just come to the realization that it will always be number two in their lives, which is fine. These guys have literally been through war together.
Wait, I didn't think the bigger one, I don't think he was married. I thought he was just gay. I think he was.
You might be right. You're right.
I think he was dating somebody. I think that.
Yeah,
I mean,
he was
that's
dating somebody. Yeah.
yeah, but I think they broke up and the other guy's divorced.
Yeah, you're right. That was
yeah.
misremembered that. But basically, the whole point, which is that these are the most important relationship in their life is each other, and
they barely even interact with each other, which is
well. I mean, before this book, they hadn't really seen each other in a while, right? Because he'd been, one of them had still been away doing like mercenary missions until this. One of my favorite parts of this book is the Thanksgiving blow up, where he goes to the worst Thanksgiving, or it was Christmas meal. It's just like the worst family of all time, I guess.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
His relatives are dog shit. Yeah. Well, so what did you think of this fifth issue? I know we've been talking about the book in general, but issue 5.
I think honestly, the book kind of hit its stride in the third issue. And I like the fifth issue a lot, because I thought the story was just gonna be like about just getting this guy out of it, and I think that is the way the story moves forward. But it's very clearly about these two, broken men, to say the least.
One more literally than
yes,
the other.
but the other one still clearly, and I'm sorry, I can't remember if it's PTSD or something else related to it.
No, he has he's like a brain injury.
Yeah, there's something, a brain injury, yeah.
He has like a trauma where he has memory loss and he gets seizures sometimes. He has to take pills for it.
Yeah.
So he has like a physical brain injury.
So I mean, the
other guy's missing a full ass leg. So.
And I mean, the story, the crux of the story is very much, well, not the crux. I mean, there's a lot of issues that are going on in this. I think like the two main issues are the way that we treat people, like soldiers, when they come back, and like kind of to see two people who were basically like used by the system to do all of these things, and then in the end they're kind of getting the brunt of the stick on both accounts, even when they're trying to do the right thing, and also being how shitty our justice system is.
Yeah, it is really surprising how, because I think a lot of books like this, and one writer that we've talked about in the past that has a problem is Alish Kott, who I think, we definitely agree politically, but gets too invested in his message and not invested enough in the story. And I think the thing that's really great about Campi's writing in Bad Karma is she's managing to touch on a lot of different things. Like you said, veteran relations, the healthcare system, the justice system, the institutional racism in America.
I mean, it's regular racism too in that one offhand comment.
Right, and
the subtle racism. Oh man, I like it always kind of stings whenever you like read like there's a line, Che, I don't remember exactly which issue it came out of. It might have been issue 4, where his ex-wife is driving away with the person they broke out of jail, the innocent person, and she just asked, "Do you want to listen to any rap?"
Yeah, it's actually this issue. I remember that.
It's just a very it's just a really subtle line. I'm like, damn, this person's just like kind of like on tune with exactly what they're writing. Yeah. Where like it all feels organic because like, listen, like I mean, not bad people, but I have met people who just like dropped random shit like that.
Well, there's also I think it's again,
talk to me about basketball when I don't even ask about basketball.
Yeah, we talked about this
with
Something Killing the Children, like the a small punctuation choice can really change. It's like there was that example in Something Killing the Children. The choice to make something a statement versus a question really alters what the character is trying to say there. And here, I have the page brought up, when she says, "You want to listen to rap or something," and then the response is ... Nah, I'm good. Like I think the dots, that ellipsis there is really is 1,000 words right there, because obviously the conversation leading up to that, like you said, he didn't mention rap. I think he even asked it. He was like, "His music's pretty good." I think he said, or like.
I mean, no, the conversation starts with him like listening to the Eagles.
Yeah, that's right, the Eagles.
Yeah, and so it's just like, and just like taking it from like the fact that like the Eagles, which is like the.
Is the Eagles the opposite of rap music?
It's definitely sitting on the other end, like definitely sitting on the other.
It's near the other side of the spectrum of music.
It's like rock, but it's like kind of annoying rock. I mean, shit, I only like Hotel California. I've tried to listen to other music. I'm just not a big fan of it.
Are Eagles fans gonna come after us for this?
I don't really think there are Eagles. I don't think they really have a following. I think they're like people like specific songs, but I don't hate the Eagles. I'm just saying that it's like
I can literally only name one Eagles song.
So I mean, I think everyone can only really name one Eagles song, especially us. But yeah, no, it's just like that whole conversation about her not liking the Eagles lands on, do you want to listen to hip hop? It's just little shit like that.
Yeah, the book is surprisingly subtle for something that was really important. Really, for something that is very smart about a lot of different big, like world-altering topics. It's surprisingly subtle with the way that she manages to write these characters in these situations. And the other thing I really love about this, just storytelling wise, is the way that she's able to introduce new characters seemingly like every issue or every other issue that feel really that I get really invested in pretty quickly. We get introduced to this CIA agent. I think she maybe showed up briefly in one of the earlier issues. I have to admit, I didn't go back and reread. For this, but she's clearly becoming a more major character. And I just love that intro where she's walking into the office with all these roses, and then we see that this coworker who is probably more friendly with her than she is with him, and we all have that coworker who thinks we're
absolutely
like more tight with them than they are with us. And he makes a joke that's like a pretty dumb joke, and then gets the exact reaction you would expect. But it's just great. It's just great character development. But then of course we see she comes to him later for help because obviously everybody else in her office is shit. It seems.
Yes. Exactly.
Literally criminals, if we have discovered the rest of her office, basically.
Yeah, this is we're definitely existing in this. I'm sure our government's like this, but in the story that it takes place in, it's very like hyper. I don't really know the trope
I'm sure the CIA is definitely like this.
Yeah,
I don't know if every single branch of the government is 100% full of awful people.
Yeah.
Maybe just like 80%, but 100% of the CIA are criminals. I'm happy to say that on the record.
Yeah, so I'm going to say put that on the record into the internet archives for them to know forever.
Listen, they killed JFK. They can come kill me if they need to.
See, they won't know. No one will notice that, Che. If you just get a bullet in your brain through a podcast, and that'll just traumatize me. And I don't need that. I got my own.
They kill me.
I got my own
stuff. You got to drive to my house. You got to upload this shit to the internet. So.
I got my own stuff I'm dealing with. All right, I don't want to deal with your shit too.
Was the FBI chasing you?
A little bit.
Yeah, I really like this book. I mean, it continues to be a very consistent well written story. And the most frustrating thing about it, we were talking about it before we started the podcast, is I'm just annoyed that it's taken so long to put these issues out, and kind of. I get, like, as you can see, I don't fucking remember the characters' names. We sort of are, like, loose on topics. Like, if you releasing stuff every 3 months or something like that, like Panel Syndicate is doing, I mean, we're on issue 5 of this, and we're on issue 4 of Friday, which we're going to talk about in a second. Both of these books came out during the, what was it called? The hiatus when comic books are not getting released in 2020.
Yeah, there was a printing halt during the beginning of COVID. I think it took, like, 5 months for it to come back. It was a... Yeah,
so we're talking...
If you're going to go like a weird, I was gonna say, you're going to go in a weird time machine, listen to our episodes back then. You like, we're just not talking about comics for a while.
Well, we did an episode where we talked about some of our favorite Black comic book artists, but I think other than that, we just didn't talk about comics. We were just for like 6 months.
It was kind of weird running out of content.
But during that time is when these first 2 issues of Bad Karma and Friday came out. So we're talking 4 issues and 5 issues in the course of a year and a half.
It's been crazy. Like, I'm looking at
we give Jeff Johns shit, but even Jeff Johns is not that bad.
Yeah, it's clearly hard, because I'm sure the people who are making these comics, it's, I'm assuming they don't have money down, I feel like, for these. It's very, like, it's, to me at least, it seems like they get the money back when, like, through Panel Syndicate, which is, the way they do it is pay what you want system. Yeah. So it seems like they do, but you guys should definitely go check out Panel Syndicate and pay these people, because they make some good art. And I think Friday just came out with its first
the trade is available on Image either last Wednesday or this coming Wednesday.
So it probably will be in your local comic book shop, which I definitely recommend picking up Friday, that we're just about to talk about. But just Panel
I should say, Alex Campi it's not like she's not writing books. She dropped 3 books in the year 2020. Yeah. The Scottish Boy, Maddie, and True War Stories. So she's out here writing. I'm not giving her.
I think it's just it's hard to, like, I feel like it's hard for artists to work on these projects, especially when they don't put the money up front. Because I mean, if you're a ongoing comic book artist, you're always on a deadline. And I feel like part of, like, what Panel Syndicate is about is, like, they're their own editors, and that's for better and worse. So yeah, I mean,
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, shit. Yeah, no, comics are a tricky business.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, I think off air, but the economics of comic book writing is very interesting to me. I think there's got to be so few people who are making a living off of this, just by the nature of the business.
I mean, the people that I've met, artists, I feel like artists can, like, rely on their, like, art and commissions and stuff like that to kind of keep them going.
Is there enough people getting art commissions to, like, support all these comic book artists? So I see all of them have a Tumblr or a website that you can go to and get a commission from them, but
yeah, I think I don't know. I think, like, commissions do pay, like, I don't know. I don't have, like, the man hours to like payment. I don't really actually know how that works out depending on artist to artist. But I did talk with the artist/writer of, like, Headlopper, and he was working with hold on, let me look at his name right behind me. It's Andrew McLean. And I met him at New York Comic Con 2 years ago, and he was running his own booth with his girlfriend. And I was briefly talking to her while he was signing some stuff, and she was just telling me how, like, they go to every convention, they have to sit at, like, the booth every time, and it's just, and he does both of his stuff, but it's like that's the way it has to be for, like, some of these people where they, like, make their money off of, like, the books that they like have in stock. Like a lot of them, they were, like, had their own, like, trades there to sell to you directly. Like, and it was at a markup, admittedly, but that was because they signed it and shit. But it's a tricky business for sure. And, like, even, like, as someone who's, like, wanting to break into that industry and, like, write their own comic books, the time being that you put down money just to even get started into it is a very difficult venture, because you have to actually go in with product in hand. It's a shitty system. And I've heard that Image Comics are just finally getting a union, which is good. But, so I mean, like, a little short comic that I'm going to name drop, which is on our website, called Pressure, that I wrote. That cost me about $600.
Yeah.
And I got a deal because I didn't work with it. And we had to play a last minute letterer to kind of come in and just do it very quickly. But even then, I mean, like, it's a hard business, which is like Panel Syndicate, which these books are like 40 pages. To, like, even, like, kind of for the hours trade off for that, let's say they're even doing $100 a page, which for these pages is incredible. That's a $4,000 project.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean I also think that's a lot of why, especially on Panel Syndicate, and you see it on Image too. The author and artist are co-creators, so I'm sure they're just. I mean, there's some agreement there where they're splitting profits, but yeah, I mean, once again, shout out to Alex Campi, Ryan Howe, and D. Conniff, who have produced a really great book. The only complaint of which is that I want more of it, which I think we've been saying for the last year and a half, basically.
Yeah.
I just want more of this. More often. I wonder if Bad Karma will get the Friday treatment and get a Image book released through it, which I really like that Panel Syndicate has that agreement. Seems to have that agreement with Image. They did the Barrier for the first volume of Barrier and Private Eye both got released on Image, as well as that oh my god, what was the superhero book that we read and like completely blanking on the name? Black Hand and Ironhead.
I like Black Hand Ironhead. Did I buy that yet? I don't remember. Was Bottom Feeders Panel Syndicate?
Bottom Feeders is you put me on the spot. I'm just gonna look at my bookshelf.
But I mean, also looking at this,
Fantagraphic. Books.
Image is the one who published The Private Eye, which I'm holding up now. But this is also this was my first Panel Syndicate book. Written
I think it's the first. I think Barrier and Private Eye are the first two that they released.
Which is written by Brian K. Vaughan, and I'm I gotta say this is definitely great. You should really pick it up. Hopefully you don't have to pay the full $50 like I did. It's expensive as a book. I'm just kidding. I got it half off. That's the reason I bought it. I got it half off, but still.
All right, should we move on to talk about Friday?
Let's do it. Absolutely.
All right. So we have bringing up Friday. Sorry, this is the. I'm just clicking around on my screen. So many fucking screens open. Jesus. Friday, written by Ed Brubaker and art by Marcos Martin and Muntas Vincente, I think is how you say it. And these are Vincente and Martin are the ones who started Panel Syndicate, so they've done a lot of the original. Like we just talked about Private Eye and Barrier. They're the art team that worked on that, as well as Martin has worked on Doctor Strange: The Oath, which I think we read, or at least I read. I don't know if we've ever talked about it on the podcast. And Vicente has done a Star Wars book called Vader: Dark Visions. Did you read that, Corey?
No, I did not.
No. Well, Ed Brubaker is obviously one of the absolute legends of comic book writing, and Captain America: Winter Soldier. He's done basically all of my favorite books from the last few years, and my heroes have always been Junkies, Cruel Summer, Bad Weekend. He's working on another partnership with Sean Phillips right now, a return of his Reckless series, and he also done Criminal, obviously. Corey's favorite book, Kill or Be Killed.
Don't, come on.
I love that book so much. You hate it to its core. It's great.
It's like no, it's I don't like.
It's not your thing. I know.
It's no, but
I just give you shit.
Yes, okay. I like most of these writers whenever Che decides to bring these up, and it makes me feel like an asshole. I'm like, I like 95% of their work. Yeah. Yes, but I like a majority of their shit.
But something that is very much up your alley is Friday. So you want to talk people through this issue 4 of Friday?
Sure. I mean, if you guys didn't listen to our Friday podcast a while ago, but the basic gist of the story is there's these two teenage detectives in this small town basically grew up, and Friday, our main character, was like the sidekick / partner to like one of the smart kid, basically the smart Sherlock Holmes kid trope. But she went away to college, and they left on bad terms because, well, they slept together right before she left, and it got really, I mean. When they're, it didn't end
complicated.
It got very complicated. So the relationship was left on steady ground. And this is Friday's first return trip home since leaving. So she's it's kind of it starts off with this kid just trying to and I think it's relatable to a lot of people who have moved away from school or even college. I mean, I think she's a college kid and coming back to your town. Where it's trying to figure out where you fit in, do you recognize it anymore, and stuff like that. And what was I going with this? But as the book evolves with it, it kind of becomes, the mystery starts uncovering some things, and her friend Lance was looking into something, and then
His full name is Lancelot, by the way, which I don't think I realized until this 4th issue.
I did not either. Che, how much can I spoil?
I think just you go for it.
Yeah,
Do the
at
whole
this
thing.
point. Okay, at this point. So basically, after her going home and trying to reconnect with Lance and trying to figure out what she's doing there, Lance is a bit distracted by a mystery that he's working on, and in the end, it seems that the mystery caused him to get killed.
A mystery that seems somewhat supernatural. And we have hints of it in the first issue that something weird is maybe going on with this murder case and this dagger that they found. And then in the 2nd and 3rd issue, we start to get some overt demonic stuff, it seems. Friday hits like a vision of this horrible, there's like a horrible dragon face, I remember correctly. Either way. And then, as you're about to say, at the end of the 3rd issue, she finds Lance dead outside of their headquarter, which is like a cabin in the woods, very Hardy Boys style, and the cabin is like lit ablaze. And I think this is definitely where the book is shifting. Ed Brubaker says at the end in his little post book script, really, there he's write this short essay about it, where he's saying he feels like this is the beginning of an act 2, and it makes sense because that end of the 3rd issue feels like, I don't even know if Act 2 is the right thing. It feels like sort of a prelude. Like there was the prologue of this book, because it then feels like the story is kicking off now. It's not the story I thought we were getting. I thought we were going to get this sort of like 2 reconnecting friends solving this mystery together, and that's obviously not what's going to happen going forward.
Which I love that. I think that was like a really interesting choice, because I think we were so caught up in the supernatural thing that's happening to be like, oh, there's some spooky stuff happening. I wonder how these 2 are going to solve it. And we're also caught up in hopefully seeing the reconnecting of these 2 friends after, after they had sex and everything got weird and complicated. And then
Friday's such an interesting, like, well-formed character. Like, I just want to spend a lot of time with her. And
it's like, I think it's like always like, it's interesting to kind of see like the Watson. I always love looking at the perspective. I mean, Sherlock Holmes takes place from Watson's perspective,
right? And
I think this is like a very interesting take on like the sidekick character to the overly smart person.
What if Sherlock died and then Watson had to solve the mystery of Sherlock's death?
And we both know they were fucking.
I didn't say that. You say both know.
No.
How do we both know this?
We all know. I'm sorry. Everyone knows. I mean, they're not being subtle about it. Come on.
I missed that part in the Sherlock Holmes movies where Robert Downey Jr. was deep dicking Jude Law.
I mean, like, let's be honest. It was the other way around. Just kidding, guys. Just kidding, guys.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Robert Downey Jr. is a bottom.
I mean, I think the person in charge of Sherlock Holmes' estate was actually very mad because like Robert Downey Jr. actually did come out and say like, oh, I think he's gay, or like I think like it's like he's like oh
no, there's been very not subtle hints to that, but not even just that iteration, but obviously in the Benedict Cumberbatch iteration, it's like it's a pretty. I think it's the 3rd season where he gets a girlfriend briefly, and there's like 12 jokes in the opening 2 minutes of the episode, like thought he liked men.
Yeah, basically. It's like, oh, I thought you too. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
But, and so the 4th issue is kind of like, which I really liked about how long these issues are, because I think this would easily be like 2 issues of something else. Mm-hmm. But this also lets let them like take their time with Friday, because I mean, obviously it's a character who's grieving, and I love her text bubbles being like, this isn't what Lancelot would do. He probably tried to go solve my mystery within a day. Yeah. Or whatever. But I like the fact that she feels so human because she shut down. Like, what do you expect? Her best friend died, was murdered, and she knows it. And it's the classic...
And she feels wrongly, but she feels partially to blame for it.
Which, exactly. It's like completely wrong in that. Like, but she believes that it was her fault. Yeah. Because she's like, I mean, it's always the thing like, I wasn't fast enough. Like, what would you have done? But yeah, I mean, as the audience, we know that he was murdered. And it's the classic more mystery like trope where the cops are like, this is an accident, which always leads to good stories, but that's basically what happens. Like they get the whole like, he wasn't murdered, it was an accident, you saw something because you hit your head, blah 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 blah. We know that's not the case.
2 Panel Syndicate books in a row where a major plot point of them is that the justice system in America is a failure.
Well, it is.
Shocker.
Well, yeah, that's not really much of fiction. It's just telling the truth.
Yep.
But yeah, I think in the book ends up on one of my favorite mystery like kind of tropes where like Lance knew that he was on his way out, and I always like love that whole like last like, and I mean we kind of saw that in a bit. We talk about Dune essentially, or Dune in a second, because I really like the way that they portrayed a similar thing in that movie. Where like the character like I'm gonna die, and it's always like very interesting. Like I gotta die, but I need to plan on what happens afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it also adds. I mean, the end of this book it adds an elements of stake to the story that weren't there before. Because obviously, like we said, or like I said, I thought it was going to be like a sort of adult Hardy Boys thing. I even think Ed Brubaker uses that terminology in his after comic essay in the first issue, where he's like, I wanted to tell the story that's similar to these things I loved growing up, like the Hardy Boys, like what's the girl? I keep thinking of Ramona Quimby, but that's not what her name is. She's like the female version of the Hardy Boys. I'm not crazy. This exists.
God, no, it does exist, but her name is not Ramona at all.
I know. Ramona Quimby's from a different book that I read.
You threw me so fucking hard with that one. Oh my God.
Nancy Drew. There you go.
There it is.
Nancy
Ramona. Like, it's like you threw it like such in a weird direction. I'm like, who the fuck are you talking about?
I actually got to look up who the fuck Ramona Quimby is so that I'm not crazy. Ramona Quimby is a series of novels. I don't think she was a detective. She just looks like a little girl playing with her dolls. Sorry. But basically, I thought it was going to be like that. But it turns out it's not. It's going to be something where, because the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, obviously they're not solving mysteries about themselves. But obviously this is something that came back on Lance, and it would be quite a coincidence, and I think bad writing if it turned out that Lance's death was not related to the case that they were trying to solve. So obviously this is something that has intertwined this small town and our two major characters. The only bummer I have for this is that we don't spend like any time with Lance. He's in the first issue. Yeah, I know. He becomes like sort of a ethereal figure in the story. We only really see him through the eyes of Friday, which I think works as a character, but I would just like to have seen more of him being a great detective, because we just hear about how smart he is. Yeah,
but I think that's kind of like, to me personally, I think that's the point of it though. It's like it's not about the two of them. It's like,
obvious. No, it's definitely intentional. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, I like that though, because like it could have been the easy like teenage mystery solving thing, but I kind of like this from I liked it from this perspective because it's taking, and I don't think the idea behind her character design was not on purpose, because she's a redheaded Velma, which is just like the combination between Velma and Daphne. I mean, I don't think that was not on purpose as well. And it's like kind of like, I always like the return for teenage mystery solvers, because especially they're always like hardened or like fucked up afterwards. And I don't think the story would be the same if it's like just Lancelot and Friday like reconciling. And I think what they decided to do makes the story like different to me. And I like that. I mean, I would have loved to see I would have been really happy to see Lance and Friday solve a mystery together. But, yeah. I don't know. I think I like the story a little bit better.
My dream scenario is that this is volume 2 of this book. We're on issue 10, and we've already had a full volume of Lance and Friday solving a mystery together, and then we kick off volume 2, and Lance is dead, and we got to solve his mystery. That's my dream scenario. I realize I won't get that, and I love this book.
I'm sure
we talked about.
I'm sure we're gonna get some more flashbacks too. I would be very surprised if a previous case doesn't tie into a future case or something like that. I don't know. That's just kind of This is my assumption.
One of the most important moments in their relationship happens before the book starts, as we've already talked about. The moment where they have sex and she goes off to college, and she feels like that she's abandoned him, and it really frays their friendship. That happens before page 1 of book 1. So I think you're right. We're going to need to flash back to really develop this relationship that is essentially the point of the story. I mean, the mystery is obviously captivating, and I want to know what happened. But the narrative arc of the story is the relationship between Friday and Lance.
Absolutely.
And Friday and herself, like Friday, coming to terms with her identity as this person separate from Lance, where she went off to college. That was a big part of the opening issues, that she felt like she had lost an element of what made her herself.
She didn't know. Yeah, she didn't know who she was in this town without him, and now she has to do that without like she doesn't have the choice anymore to be like am I going to do this? Am I not going to do this thing?
Right.
Also, I love the fact that this is set in the past is that her mother's girlfriend is just her aunt.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, also another classic trope of old mysteries is people dressing up as candy stripers, which I pretty sure don't exist anymore. But it was a thing that happened in every 1960s TV show when somebody would break into a hospital. So
it's funny. It's funny. I forgot that this was set in the past. I'm like, oh, the cars, and why is she just like? Oh, okay, it makes sense now. Because Friday just dresses like a hipster. Yeah. Now.
Well, so that's gonna happen more and more because I think unless your story is about in the same way that we were talking about Euphoria before we got on the podcast, and this story is about Euphoria, where a lot of it is about social media and the use of technology and cell phones. It's very I as a writer, it's very challenging to write an interesting story where cell phones exist but are not a major part of your story. Because how can you if this was set now? Which I would, I would love to read a modern day the Hardy Boys type story, but your story would have to be a lot about how these guys are tweeting and they're on their cell phones tracking down mysteries that way, and it's just less interesting than having to watch Friday go to the police archives to find shit and I shouldn't say less interesting. It's a different kind of story, which it's more visually interesting than Brubaker is trying to do.
Yeah, I don't know. We suck now in. I think phones have made storytelling hard.
I think I agree in a sense, but I think it's
there are places for it, but sometimes I'm like I just fucking
they're just the most important thing. Unless you don't want to write a story, it would be like writing a story and set in modern times where nobody has a car. It's like everybody rides around on a horse in 2021, and you'd have to to spend 4 hours explaining why that's a thing. So if you want to write a story without cars, you have to set it back in the 1800s. They had cars in the 1800s. Before that. Before cars, whenever cars started.
And I like that. Can we move on? Can we move on to Dune now?
Yeah, we'll take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll talk about Dune, the absolute mind melting experience that is Denis Villeneuve's Dune. So we'll be right back.
I did what I did for the good of the realm.
The realm? Do you know what the realm is? It's the 1,000 blades of Aegon's enemies. A story we agree to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
But what do we have left once we abandon the lie? Chaos. A gaping pit waiting to swallow us all.
Chaos isn't a pit. Chaos is a ladder. Many who try to climb it fail, and never get to try again. The fall breaks them.
And we're back.
Sup?
All right, let's do it. It's time. We're talking about Denis Villeneuve's 2021. I just think masterpiece.
Masterpiece? I think masterpiece.
I think I'm going to use.
I think it's very, very fair.
I had somebody who will remain nameless, somebody who's very dear to me in my heart, tell me they liked Last Night in Soho more than Dune, and they said Dune was boring. And I thought about maybe launching that person into space. I just don't know what to do with my friends who have shit taste in movies. It makes me very uncomfortable.
I am genuinely confused on how, if you actually were kind of paying attention to this movie, how you were bored.
Especially only 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, so 17% of critics thought this one was a real stinker.
That's fucking
fucking morons,
fucking idiots. It's to me also, I'm thinking about it, there's no way someone could think this is boring because you people sat around watching people in armor and swords talk about politics for 8 seasons. We could talk about a little bit of politics in this fucking sci-fi, the coolest fucking shit I've ever seen in my life.
Well, I have to remember. I want to talk about Denis Villeneuve a little bit before we jump into this full discussion. So Denis Villeneuve is, yes. I was telling Corey, he was, I think I've said on this podcast, he was my number 2 current working director. Damien Chazelle was number 1, is maybe number 1. Either way, I have the La La Land poster behind me as people can see. But the absolute run that Denis Villeneuve is on right now is also like I've apparently said his name wrong, which is Denis Villeneuve. Sorry, so not Villeneuve. It's Villeneuve.
I was making his name a lot harder than I had to before.
Denis Villeneuve.
Villeneuve.
The fucking French, you're the bane of my existence, honestly. Yeah, Villeneuve.
This is why he's got that bastard Timothée Chalamet in his movie.
But this is the run that he has been on since 2013. 2013, he drops Enemy and Prisoners, two absolutely scorching, crazy movies. Prisoners is like has still scarred me to my core as a human being.
I watched that movie once in a good way.
Yeah,
Just once.
Yes, it's very much not a let me go revisit that on a quiet Friday night type movie, but it is very good.
I had a good friend of mine who's an actor. He like pointed out a scene to me that he always like loves. And it's a scene where I think it's Hugh Jackman talking to Jake Gyllenhaal, and he was like, I think what was the line read? It was just like, he's like, I think it was like, you won't get away with this, but he didn't. He could have said it in a very like authoritative like manner, but just kind of like the direction and like the decision there was like, you won't get away with this, and I really just love that. When I first saw that, it kind of just seemed to stuck with me, and then please continue. I don't know.
It's a masterclass by basically everyone involved in there. So then in 2015, he drops a eminently rewatchable banger, Sicario. That is, to this day, I think my favorite Emily Blunt performance.
I agree with you on that.
Still hurts me that she's not in the sequel.
I'm sorry, sir. I think Edge of Tomorrow might be my favorite movie.
Edge of Tomorrow was good. I love Edge of Tomorrow. It's a very fun movie. I think
she's acting her ass off. She's acting her ass off in Sicario. That's very, very true. It's funny. That's the one in my mind I always forget that he did.
It's cool because they don't really feel. I mean, so we're gonna get to now. This was like a very different director, very somebody heady, made these sort of quiet, slow movies that would turn on a head immediately. Sicario is less quiet than the other ones.
It's a bit loud.
It opens with a bunch of gunfire.
It opens with a bunch of dead bodies in a house.
Yes, there are moments of it that are very reserved. And then, this like he at this point he'd caught my attention. I was like, who's this fucking French Canadian man making these like visually incredible movies, getting some of the best performances out of actors I've ever seen, including Jake Gyllenhaal, who has an insane resume already, but was lighting up the screen in these Villeneuve films. And then 2016 comes, and we get Arrival, which is one of the most interesting concepts for a sci-fi movie I've ever seen.
One of my favorite going in blind experiences of my life. One of the best.
One of the best film twists ever, period. Even if you see it coming, which I think there are parts of it that are, I think, intentionally very telegraphed. Once it hits, you're like, Jesus Christ, this guy's a genius. Yeah. And
absolutely
follows up 2016's Arrival with one of my favorites.
Yes.
It's on
fucking snubbed.
It's on a wall. Oh, it's over there. That's that.
Like over your shoulder.
I have a Blade Runner 2049 poster behind me. I got the Blu-ray on the shelf in front of me, and it's a movie that I saw 3 times in theaters, which doesn't really happen much. I go to the theaters maybe twice for a movie, and then we'll just buy it and watch it over and over again when it's available at home. But I mean, it takes a real genius to overcome that Jared Leto performance and make a truly amazing film.
I think that's the reason the movie's a 9 out of 10 for me, man. I think he's the reason.
It's a 9.9 out of 10 for me. If we hot swap in Jared Leto, soon to be Morbius, as basically any other actor on planet Earth.
Anybody, man.
I think it's my favorite movie of all time.
I should have put Army of Hammer's crazy ass in it. I would have been fine with it, honestly.
I am a cannibal. But that is 2017. A movie that did pretty poorly.
Yeah. Got snubbed by the Oscars entirely.
Yeah, critically it was celebrated, but got snubbed by the Oscars and didn't do well at the box office. And I was worried. Oh, this is a big swing, coming back as a sequel to a maybe the beloved sci-fi movie and not being Ridley Scott. Like I thought this is maybe bad news for Villeneuve. And then when I heard he got the Dune directorial role, I was like, this is perfect. I basically want to see Dune shot like Blade Runner 2049.
Yes, and I agree with you, but I was worried about this because I mean beforehand I remember seeing him getting announced as doing Dune, and I think I picked up the book because of it. And I think within the first I'm going through and actually finishing the book now. I read the first 30% of it. I'm like, I have no idea how this is going to work in an entertaining fashion.
Well, it already didn't. It already didn't
yes,
work
that's
in
what I was
an
also
fashion once.
Yes, because they
did this. They ran
they
this
did.
shit in the 80s, and it didn't work.
Because I think like a lot of quotes I read about Dune was like it's unfilmable. It's basically like kind of like it's just too much for one movie. It was also proven with this. I think obviously the first book was way too much for one movie because it was part one.
Yeah, it was it is often thought as the one of the white whales of like sci-fi and fantasy work. I think we have gone past the point. Like, people are so invested in just shoveling money into their pockets that it doesn't matter. People will shit on any IP they need to. But like, obviously, if anybody's ever watched the 1984 sci-fi movie, we were just not ready in the 80s, even with a director as celebrated as David Lynch, to make Dune into a compelling piece of film. And I think maybe even 5 years ago, Dune doesn't work with the technology we have. There is a sci-fi movies from even Blade Runner 2049 looks absolutely beautiful. I mean, that Vegas scene where Ryan Gosling is walking through the like desert that has become the strip that has become the desert is. Do
you think he was doing that scene? It was like I'm gonna do Dune next.
I don't think he knew in
No, I don't think so. I'm just wondering. Like he's like sand, Dune.
Yeah. Well, there was
definitely a pitch for this
between these two. Yes, yeah.
I think there's definitely a pitch for this. I'm sure somebody's owned the rights forever, but I'm sure they would like definitely somebody had to go in and be like, "Hey, listen, I want to do this, and I think I can do it."
I think one of the most interesting things about this is that it's a movie, because in 2021 stuff like this is made into TV shows now, which I love I love TV shows, as you guys know on the podcast. We talk about them a lot. I don't think this works unless you were going to spend $1 billion making a TV show. This movie doesn't work without the massive budget behind it.
No, I was like, I think like it could be a TV show, but I don't think it's possible now because first off, the movie definitely works.
Too expensive.
Exactly. The movie would work without these things. They could have like hot swapped some people in, but it's like actors. Mm-hmm. Everyone was really good in this. Way too expensive for a TV show. Budget. Way too expensive and the fact that you couldn't show this in IMAX is a fucking disservice. I think that's the biggest thing.
I do want to say to some people, I mean, I think I often get a reputation on this podcast for criticizing how people enjoy art. You want to enjoy stuff the way you want to enjoy it. Don't let me tell you otherwise. I did tell people 2 episodes ago who watched Squid Game dubbed that they can jump in front of a train.
And I'm not disagreeing with you there.
It was only like 70%. It was like 70% a joke. Okay, so people who got up in arms about it, whatever. Please, I'm just begging you. Don't watch this fucking movie on your laptop.
No.
If you don't have a big TV in your house, I mean, I wouldn't watch it on a big TV in your house anyway. But if you need to watch it at home, you got kids, or you just don't feel comfortable going to the movies, or you don't want to go to the movies, I'm not going to tell you what to do. But watch it on the biggest screen you possibly can, or better yet, like Cory and I did, go see this thing in fucking IMAX.
Yeah.
It's the sound, you can like feel it in your chest, the like from the score every 5 minutes was amazing.
I was thinking like how I could rewatch it because we were talking about like rewatching. I want to go watch it again at my house. Like I want to go watch it again. I mean, I'll probably want to watch it again in like the next month or two. And I'm like, I guess the only way to do it is like I gotta throw my phone away, turn off all the lights, and just put my headphones at full volume and just watch it. And I'm like, this isn't the same though. But I couldn't. Yeah. You cannot be distracted in this movie, which I think is so difficult to do. Is like watching things from home that you're gonna be eventually distracted.
I turn my phone off when I watch movies because I'm a psychopath. But I know most people don't. I know you probably shouldn't if you need to be reached by people. But you have a VR headset, don't you?
I do.
You have like.
Do.
I have considered buying a VR headset just to watch Dune.
See, I think
is it that level of experience? Or
listen,
no?
I gotta try it. I'll let you know. I had a really good time watching Godzilla.
Cory will report back.
I will report back. The only problem with VR sets after a while is they get a little heavy.
Yeah, I can't imagine sitting. I think you'd have to do an intermission. You have to pick a time in the movie where it makes sense to take a break and like do a quick like walk around the room with the headset off.
You gotta walk around the room. Like you gotta like get yourself comfortable too. It's like there's a lot of like things you gotta go into the process of. And if your roommate walks out and be like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you laying down on the couch just with a VR headset and being really quiet? It's like you're.
That's actually a good point. You would look like a true psychopath.
You look like you're in Ready Player One in not a good way.
Yeah. Especially because it's not like a game. Like in a game, you're like moving your arms, you're walking around. You're just sitting there like in stasis, quiet. Like the fucking Matrix.
I can't remember what movie it was. I think maybe it was Godzilla vs. King Kong. And they do these things, and I can't remember which app it is, but they have these things set up like a movie theater. So you'll have people, like actual people, like next to you and shit.
Why would I want that?
I don't know.
Wait, what? Wait, why? That's the worst part about the movie theater.
I just tried it out, but it was kind of fun because I already saw the movie and people actually were like kind of talking during it. It might not have been.
They had the people talking during the movie?
It was obviously a choice. I could have definitely done my own privately, but I was just curious. Gotcha. But it was like people actually were like talking. It was like a movie that people have already seen, I think. But it was very like, it was like such like during the pandemic. It was like it was a really like full on dystopic.
I guess that could be nice. Yeah,
it was a full on, but it was like this would be fun with like if you had like people to watch it with. I think
that's what Mark Zuckerberg wants. He wants the entire world to be living in meta or whatever the fuck it is.
I fucking hate him.
Speaking of people in movie theaters, so as we already talked about, I ran out the door a little bit late, came in just like you did right as the previews were ending, so I didn't know there were other people in the theater. And this is essentially a horror movie for last night. Sorry, this was last night in Soho, and at the halfway point, there's a jump scare, and the girl, it was like a couple, I think, or maybe just two friends, whatever. But it was one of them was a girl who screamed at the top of her lungs at a jump scare, which I'm prepared for in a movie theater at a horror movie where I know there's other people in there. But until this exact moment in the theater, I did not realize I was not the only person in there.
Oh no, that's horrifying.
So I almost shit myself to death.
That is horrifying. It's like, it's
it's unrelated to Dune, but it just made me talk about people in theaters. Maybe we think about.
But yes, let's go. Yes.
Well, so, let's talk about the other people in this besides Villeneuve who made this. So, John Spates, who is one of the screenwriters. The screenwriters were credited as Villeneuve himself, John Spates, and Eric Roth. John Spates most famous for bad scripts, so I was very surprised he wrote this. He did do Doctor Strange, so shout out to him for that, but also was responsible for the 2017 Mummy, Passengers. Did you see Passengers, Corey?
Which one was Passengers? No,
Passengers
I didn't see. I did not see Passengers. I've only heard bad things about Passengers.
Cool idea. Bad movie.
I heard The Mummy went through many rewrites, so I don't really know if that's on him. I've heard The Mummy was a fucking
he might not be to blame for this. He might not be to blame for this. But he also did write Prometheus. So.
Oh no!
But upcoming, he is the credited scriptwriter at the moment for Justice League Dark and Van Helsing, which is the thing I didn't know was happening. Did you know there was a Van Helsing movie coming?
There's Hugh Jackman coming back?
There's no other information on the IMDb page
I am
that there
disinterested.
Is a Van Helsing movie
if Hugh Jackman's not back, I'm not back. Get the fuck out of here.
Don't think it's gonna be Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman's in his late 50s at this point, right?
Still looks great.
He does. Ain't nobody criticizing the way Hugh Jackman looks. 53. My apologies. Don't want to age the man. I don't think he's in the business of making Van Helsing movies anymore.
He can still play a mid-30s person for a while. Like Timothy Chalamet is 24, and he's playing a 15-year-old, but he's just a very skinny boy.
Yeah, but Timothy Chalamet looks like a boy cherub.
He does look like a. He's so tiny. He's
crazy. But also Eric Roth, who makes sense that he's on this. He's basically the adaptation king at the moment. Some good, some bad. He adapted A Star Is Born, the most recent one. Also, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which I'm lukewarm on, but I know people ride hard for that movie. Also, most famously, Forrest Gump. And then two bad ones, Munich and Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, which I think Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Shout out to the Oscars that nominated that for Best Picture film. I think that was like at the moment in our time. It was the 10-year anniversary of 9/11. We were very much in the 9/11 grief mood or something. I don't know. The movie's fucking terrible. And he's working on Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. So this is like a real heavy hitting team of screenwriters behind this, which I think is interesting because you usually don't get that sort of clout on an adaptation film.
Yeah. I will say this. I think my favorite story from my girlfriend was she saw the Robert Pattinson 9/11 movie. I can't remember what it was called, but and she missed the first 5 minutes of the movie, so she thought it was just a regular romantic movie.
It's called Remember Me.
Yes.
Sorry.
But she missed the first 5 minutes where they state what day it is beforehand.
Yep. That's a very important 5 minutes of that movie, if I remember.
So the movie just ends on 9/11. She was just like, "What the fuck just happened?"
It's not a good one to go into that blind.
Another one.
That would be a good podcast to be like, what's the worst 5 minutes of a movie to miss?
My friend also, another one of my friends who he never saw Harry Potter movies. So he was marathoning all of them to go into Deathly Hallows Part 2. We were seeing it in the movie theater. He missed the last 10 minutes of Deathly Hallows Part 1. And
what happens in the last 10 minutes of that one?
He got to the part where Dobby shows up.
No.
But he didn't see the end of that.
No.
So in the movie theater line, there's like a good 20 of us, and he's like, "Yo, man, I didn't get a chance to finish the movie, but like Dobby's my favorite character." Oh man,
no, he said Dobby's my favorite character.
And he was like, him showing up there, it was a fucking amazing scene. I cannot wait for the second movie, and everyone's there is just like, oh man, this is.
I genuinely think there is not a worse character death in books for me. And this is saying that because Sirius Black did me dirty. I was I could not recover from Sirius Black. And then when she had the audacity to kill Dobby.
And fucking Hedwig too early in that movie.
Yeah, Hedwig, Mad Eye Moody, Dobby, fucking Fred. Lupin and Tonks. What's she doing?
We gotta do a Harry Potter. There's a Harry Potter deep dive at some point where I gotta ask the question. I don't think all those deaths were necessary for the story, and I feel like it was a bit of shock factor after a while. But that's not this podcast.
We will not debate that, but I disagree with you on that. But we'll do that at a different point.
Okay, fine. But I guess so the first scene in Deathly Hallows Part 2 is just here lies Dobby.
Here lies Dobby.
The loudest "what the fuck" I've ever heard in my like the most genuine to the point that no one even shushed him. It was just cathartic. It was the minute.
Yeah. Why didn't you guys warn him though?
Because it would be funny.
Just bad friends.
Yeah, no,
what we discovered here today is Cory is a bad friend.
There's like literally no other reason that I'm just not a great guy sometimes.
All right, sorry. Quickly before we got distracted talking about Dobby. Quickly before we get into the actual discussion of this movie, another few more quick shout outs. Greg Fraser on cinematography, who has been just killing it recently. It did my favorite Star Wars movie. My opinion, the best Star Wars movie ever. Rogue One. Also did the Zero Dark 30 and Vice cinematography, as well as some bad movies that I won't bother listing. We also have Joe Walker, the editor, who has been Villeneuve's editor for the last 3 movies, including Sicario, and also your boy Steve McQueen's 12 Years a Slave and Shame. I know you love Shame, right?
Love him. Mm-hmm.
I wasn't joking. You said you like Shame, right?
No, I really do like. I really do like
good.
Shame. No,
you just said yes, like I was doing. No.
I really did like Shame. It was just the one. It's like one of the movies I saw in college with a group of other people, and everyone's like, "That was a weird. I didn't like the movie." And I'm like, my background. I'm like, I don't want to be the weird guy to say like, "Yeah, I really like the movie about the sex addict."
It's a good movie. It's a fucking good movie.
It's a good movie, but it's an uncomfortable movie.
Yes, absolutely. And last but not least, I think, honestly, most importantly, besides Villeneuve himself, Hans Zimmer on the music, because the score in this, especially if you saw it in a theater, you will know is pumping and is very vital to like just especially in the battle sequences. Hans Zimmer is just, I mean,
chef's kiss.
Nobody better at his particular style of film scoring. I mean, I don't know if I'd ever want to watch like a comedy scored by Hans Zimmer or something like that.
I would love that.
When you need it big and you need it, gravity,
an epic,
he's the guy for it. Yeah.
This was.
Although apparently, I just Googled him. He apparently did the music for the Army of the Dead spin-off movie, Army of Thieves. Well, that can't be right. Let me just.
I think what I've read about Hans Zimmer is that he does do his personal touch on it, but at the same time, he's kind of a brand. To the point that he has like understudies and shit like that. So it probably was more that they hired Hans Zimmer as a production company rather than they hired Hans Zimmer himself.
He's like that mystery writer. Who is it? Patterson?
Patterson, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Who has a book every month, so he's definitely not fucking writing them himself.
I'm happy that Stephen King never... He could have easily done that, but I'm glad that he doesn't.
Sometimes I wish Stephen King would let somebody else write his books.
Hey, listen. Hey, he's always true to himself, for better or worse.
You cannot argue with that fact.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about this movie, Cory. Let's talk about Dune.
Yes, let's talk about Dune. Holy shit, what a fucking movie. I have not thought about a movie... I think I've talked about that movie every day since I saw it, and it's been over a week at this point.
There's not a lot of movies where I leave the theater in genuine shock. I think the last time I left a movie theater and I was like, what just happened to me was leaving First Man after seeing it in IMAX. And I was like, this movie blew the back of my brain out.
And I think this was like similar to that with the fact that just a movie, but I fucking felt like transported.
Yeah.
To it was I'm not a big Lord of the Rings guy. Nobody tweet at me or whatever.
You can say I'm not a big something and that people won't get mad. I think you're still safe there.
I think as movies they are very well done, and I think what those movies did was take me to another world. I felt, and I'm like, but it's like, this is fantasy world.
Being New Zealand, you mean?
Yes, but you know what the fuck I'm saying. Like, you don't be an asshole. You're being an asshole.
To you?
I didn't know what New Zealand was like as a child. Google wasn't Google Images. What do you want me to do?
I'm just joking because it's basically like he just cheated. I love the movies, but he just was like, you know what? Where the most beautiful place on earth is? It's New Zealand. I'm just gonna shoot this whole movie there.
That's fair. It's very cheating. But then in that whole like epic like scale of shit, I felt that this was it was fucking incredible. It's hard to
Well, just I mean, the establishing shots in every scene are when you can really tell that it's just so meticulously done. Every time we would enter a new place, he would expand this world in front of you that felt so massive and unconquerable, like the deserts of the Sand Planet are just vast and go on for miles, but also felt so real and aesthetic. I was never a point in this movie, especially in it's amazing in these like dark battle scenes, these battle scenes at night, where I didn't feel like I knew where I was. You knew where you were in every scene, every moment, but then around these characters was this massive expanse. I think this happens a lot in movies.
That's an
that
excellent
really big.
That's actually an excellent thing to put. Like, that's actually an excellent thing to talk about and point out. Was that I like that he was able to establish the entire complex, the little city. So I knew. So yeah, you do understand what's happening in these chaotic scenes, especially in that big like the assault on it. You know what's being destroyed. You know when things are being destroyed. Like you can tell like how bad this is because he was able to build it up and kind of show it to you beforehand. That's an excellent thing I wasn't even thinking of.
Also, the ability to because of the nature of the story, to jump back and forth between premonitions and flashbacks and different planets and not have you ever feel lost in something that's like, because it's not unlike Lord of the Rings. This is not something that even looks really remotely familiar to us at all. No. Lord of the Rings sort of looks like Planet Earth.
It's fantasy.
Like, throw some works in there and stuff.
You like, this is fantasy world, but this is like, you felt like you were on a different planet. Like it felt like it. And
it's a meticulous attention to detail that I don't think a lot of films have. And one of the films that I think about a lot that I love this movie, but it suffers from this, is Pacific Rim. A movie that is massive. The first one, not the second one. The second one we don't even
never talk about it. It wasn't the second one.
Yeah. But Pacific Rim is massive and like heart pounding and exciting, but at times you lose the sense of like what's going on because it's just two giant monsters fighting in a vast ocean. You're like, what's happening? Where's this? I don't even know the size of stuff and everything.
And then like, but there is that excellent shot in Pacific Rim where like they hit the beach where you just see how big the monster, how big the robot is on the beach scene, which is and that's collapse.
Like I said, I love.
But no. But you're right though. As like when it starts out, we don't have that sense of scale.
Yeah. But you never lose that in Dune. Dune is able to ground you, and I think it's important in a movie like this because so much of what's important about Dune is not just the massive sci-fi elements, but also the quiet human elements. The best parts in this movie are when Timothée Chalamet and Rebecca Ferguson are alone in a room having like a mother-son, expanding their mother-son relationship, like exploring that character arc. That's the best part of the movie. Except for every time Jason Momoa was on screen. Every time Jason Momoa was on screen is the best part of every movie.
I will put this out there. I want to say this. I had a friend who was like, I don't think he was that great in it. And I would say to that friend, I disagree with you. That was fucked
I don't understand that take.
People don't like Jason.
What more did you want from Jason Momoa?
I don't think people respect Jason Momoa because of Aquaman. And I think that's like such like, I know. Hey, listen, I agree with you. I think people are closed-minded.
Jason Momoa is currently having sex with Lisa Bonet. So none of us can question him. None of us can question him. Unless you're also having sex with Lisa Bonet.
That's true. He's also good.
Shit to this
well,
man.
I mean, I think Lenny Kravitz and her are having a weird sex thing going on, but I'm not going to judge him for it because those are three very attractive people. They can do whatever the fuck they want.
That sounds like a lot of fun to me. But
Oh.
I also I think speaking of like just Jason Momoa and Timothy Chalamet and Rebecca Ferguson, this cast is also incredible.
Yes.
If your like fifth player is Stephen McKinley Henderson, who is coming off of just a blazing performance in Devs, if he's like the fifth most important character in your movie, you're doing something.
I mean, Josh Brolin's like the fifth or sixth person too. It's just like he's just like, oh yeah, Josh Brolin's just kind of chilling over there. In this, it's like, yeah, he's here. Don't worry about it.
I would love to see the conversations.
Fucking Javier Bardem is like in a bit part, basically.
Yeah, I would love to see the conversation that Villeneuve had to have with Javier Bardem, for example. Zendaya is one of the bigger ones. Stellan Skarsgård and Dave Bautista to be like, listen, you're going to be really important later.
Yeah.
Right now, you are, in some cases, like you will have like one line. I think Zendaya has like what, like two lines.
Zendaya was on set for reportedly 4 days.
Yeah. And it's like, that's like great because they didn't have to pay her that much money, I don't think, for 4 days. They will have to pay her a lot in the future, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. She's going to pay her a lot of money.
But they get the Zendaya bump from all the marketing. And
got the young crowd.
Yeah.
And the other... And
how many Zoomers do you think are just going to see Dune for Zendaya? I would love to know the stats on that.
Zendaya and Timothy, people fucking... Those are like the two like young like actors now, I feel like. They're like...
Timothy Chalamet is... We'll definitely have to have a long conversation about him. And he is... there's a danger of him becoming oversaturated because, like you said, he is the young actor right now.
He's in movies. He's in 2 to 3 movies right now, I think.
Corey, he's going to be fucking Wonka. in Wonka.
That's not great.
The Wonka movie.
That's not super.
But I mean, so we talked about the Villeneuve
why is there a Wonka
run,
movie?
But the Timothy Chalamet run, and obviously actors have less say in the quality of movies. Like, for example, Beautiful Boy is a movie I really enjoy the performances in. I think Steve Carell and Timothy Chalamet deliver some like absolutely amazing father-son performances in there.
Worst name I've ever heard for a movie, though.
It's also not a very good movie. There's a lot of it that's like really exploitative and like not super interesting and everything. But this is like he did Little Women 2 years ago, which I absolutely love. The movie's fucking incredible. French Dispatch out right now, which I saw a couple weeks ago.
He looks like
in that.
He looks like he was created for a Wes Anderson movie. He looks like in a lab.
Yeah.
In a lab, someone created like the perfect Wes Anderson actor, and that is Timothy Chalamet.
Well, in that movie, so Timothy Chalamet's in that movie. Also, Léa Seydoux in that movie, and Saoirse Ronan.
No,
who were like
none of them. That's not fair. That's all of them look like the fucking
That's what I
cartoon
said.
characters.
They're like the symmetrical Olympics.
Like this, like. It's the thing about it, like Ryan Gosling could never be in one of his movies.
You don't think so?
No, it's not symmetrical enough.
You have to just shoot him in profile.
You can't. You cannot do that in Wes Anderson, Che. Everyone must look directly at the camera.
I mean, love Owen Wilson, but Owen Wilson's not the prettiest man of all time. He's been in like every single Wes Anderson movie.
How dare you?
I didn't think this was going to be a controversial take. I'm sorry.
Just how fucking.
Owen Wilson, I would love to grab a drink with Owen Wilson and hang out with him. He seems
I would
like
love
a
to
fun
hang
time.
out. He seems fucking awesome. I was joking. Fucking whatever. Ryan Gosling's white, so he'll probably be in Wes Anderson at one point. We had a weird conversation during the break, guys. But let's keep our discussion going about Dune.
Yeah. I don't really know. I think I told you this when I went out the movie. I didn't really know movies could look like this. Even Blade Runner 2049, which obviously is probably the closest thing I've seen to this, just because it is Villeneuve himself. It's his style. It is, like we talked about, these color palettes are very similar. There was moments in this film, and especially in interior shots, the interior shots in the complex on the planet, especially when basically like anytime Oscar Isaac.
Who the
Don't
fuck?
know. I've been reading a lot of NBA shit recently. Don't
Hey, it's all right. Hey, whatever.
Every time Oscar Isaac is like in his throne room or in his bedroom, I was like, they're shooting this like I've never seen before. And maybe that's because I don't watch a ton of sci-fi movies, and maybe he's just jacking this all from some Nordic sci-fi director I've never heard of or something.
I don't know about that. Okay. That's fair.
But I mean, even there's the scene where he gets woken up by the invasion and he walks out of his room and we see him coming down the stairs. There's that shot of him seeing the body from across the like courtyard or whatever it is, really.
Yeah.
It's just, even those moments he manages to make seem epic and like.
Yeah. It's like, and also I think like that scene, like kind of just sitting there, but like also like the thought process designed around not only the thought process that had to go into designing not only the lighting in that scene, but also how the building works.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm reading the book right now, and the Dune book doesn't really go into detail on how the building actually works. They have some lines about it, but it's not really about that. But the way that, of course, light would be hitting it from this direction because of the way that they do this thing, and like, oh, there's a break in here. That's why and it's like, it's just very, everything seems intentional to the point that it doesn't feel like they were lighting the scene for like aesthetic reasons, but it kind of felt on purpose.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, so much of in this, we were just talking about Wes Anderson mostly as a joke, but like so much of what like Wes Anderson style movie making is about is like every frame is a painting.
Yes.
It's not a shot. It's like everything is so meticulously placed, and it's this. And obviously, he sort of leans into that more than most directors do. But I think that's the same way that Villeneuve approaches this scene. It's like, even when we have that scene of Ferguson and Chalamet running across the sand away from the sand monster before they encounter the Fremen, is like every like angle and backshot of them is so well placed so that scene feels like urgent, and you know they're not going to die because it's a fucking book that's been around since the 60s.
Yeah.
But even still, I'm like, they could get eaten by this fucking. How are they going to survive this? What's going to happen here?
It's yeah, exactly. Like the fucking scene, every scene feels terrifying. Every scene feels on purpose, and you're just like the sense of worriness that like. I love the way that he built up the desert too, because it's just like it feels terrifying. Like not only is it expansive, like if you walk wrong out there, you're just gonna get eaten.
Yeah.
That's
well, that scene where they go to pick up, they're like, here's this routine check of our spice harvester. And it goes from something that feels very casual and you're just like
kind of epic and beautiful, like nice looking thing to a straight up horror movie.
Yeah. And then Chalamet picks the worst time to have a bad trip.
He's fucking serious. It's like, I love he's like pretty much, he's just on a perma trip the entire time he's on this planet. And that kind of makes, it's like a really good way to like, because in the book, they kind of have some offhand mentions. And I was reading the character of Paul in the book, and the thing that Chalamet brings to it is great. Because in the book, he's very like, they treat him as being very robotic. And, like he's kind of just like this person kind of losing his mind in a sense. And I think they do a good job of balancing this as someone who's like clearly dealing with so much because his father's passing. But also like coming to terms that he might be a messiah. He's not in a, and I think they do such a good job of like having his character progress from being like this, what seems like to being a child to the end of the movie to be like, oh, this is just a guy who's going through some shit right now. And he's like in the midst of something he's so out of his depth right now. And that you as the audience also feel that way. Like you feel like, I mean, even fucking Zendaya looked at the whole wink and look at the camera being like, you haven't seen anything yet, basically. And it's like, oh, it's going to get fucking weirder from here, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if that person was riding on a worm.
This whole movie is like, in a sense, a big flex, and usually
it is a huge flex.
99 times out of 100, I really hate when movies do this. We were just talking about, and these are two movies that will, I think, never be mentioned in the same sentence again. Alita: Battle Angel, and like basically that entire movie is all set up. Oh, actually, speaking of which, The Mummy, 2017.
Oh,
it's all set up for
The Mummy. Mummy was much worse about it because they were like,
The Mummy was basically like, here's this franchise we're going to.
I remember there was a fucking like picture they put out too with like all of them posing together or whatever, and I'm like,
it was the cover of Entertainment Weekly.
Oh my god,
the Monsterverse was like a real thing that.
Oh, they called it the Dark Universe. I remember that because it's fucking stupid either way. But I remember they had that like pop up like during like the Universal thing, whatever, and it was like Universe. Why did I watch that movie? The Mummy is how you do this bad.
Because you're a big Tom Cruise fan, right?
Absolutely. Never ever say that. Never say that. Never ever say that. He happens to be in movies I like. I am not a Tom Cruise fan. Let's put that out there.
That's the healthiest way to look at Tom Cruise, honestly.
It's like fucking Mission Impossible is great, not because of him. Not because of him.
No, because of Ving Rhames.
Yes. Exactly. Ving Rhames and Rebecca Ferguson.
The second Ving Rhames is not in a Mission Impossible movie, I will not be watching.
Oh, and Simon Pegg as well.
Yeah, it's true. And our boy, Superman.
So fucking good in that last one.
You know what? I still to this day, because in the trailer, when he
I gotta edit it.
cocks his arms.
I gotta edit
They have
that.
the sound in there, and then it's
Yeah.
not in the movie. What were they thinking?
I think that's the worst thing ever because everyone's like, "This is dumb," but it fucking worked for some reason.
Yeah, it would be. Who said it was dumb? Who said that?
I said it's
I'm gonna
dumb.
find them and I'm gonna cock my arms and I'm gonna beat the shit out of them.
Listen, no, I think it's dumb, but it's awesome. It's the rule of cool, man.
I think we're adding up the math here. We're at like close to 3 hours. Do we have anything else we want to say about Dune? We will 100% be talking about this movie more in the coming months because we have our end of the year stuff, and I'm just going to spoil it. This will be on Cory and I's top 10, so we'll get a chance to talk about Dune more.
So what did you? I gotta ask. I think I haven't really talked to anybody else about it. I think. What did you think about the action sequences? Because I feel like this was Dennis's like first like full. I mean, there was action sequences in Blade Runner, but it was
Not
like
really though, right? I mean,
no,
you get
not like this.
The fight. You get the fight between Gosling and Harrison Ford, and I think by the nature of the fact that Harrison Ford has crashed his plane 400 times
And also accidentally punched Ryan Gosling during that scene.
Yeah, like the action scenes were not like really.
You're not excited for Indiana Jones 5?
No,
I'm not either.
There's two good Indiana Jones movies, and I will watch those till the day I die. All the other ones,
I
I'm
like
not
Temple.
Really...
Okay. I don't love it. It's not as good as the other ones, but I think it's like a solid like 6 or 7 out of 10.
I'm glad you like Temple.
I said whatever.
That's what I'll say to that.
It's only the biggest problem is dealing with what's her face. I think she is
That's
horrible.
a big fucking problem of the movie, Cory.
Yeah, it is. God damn it, Steven Spielberg, you had to be having sex with her.
And, I mean, Short Round's also
Very problematic. I'm not. Yeah, you're right. That movie's pretty
Not
problematic.
great.
Yeah, that movie's not great.
But as far as the action sequences in Dune, the fight choreography, I don't know. I have to go back and rewatch it because I have to admit, during the fight choreography, I was so busy being like, everything is incredible. Why is this like the screen's 1,000 feet tall? I want to go back and rewatch them more in depth. But the big moments of the action sequences, like when the planes, the spaceships are like bombing.
Oh yeah, that was
and
good.
all that stuff, incredible.
I mean, I even like that Power Ranger sequence that we had in the middle of the film. I was like, I think I said to my roommate, I was like, that looks Power Rangers. But
Actually, I should take that back. The fight choreography actually in that scene when they're coming through the hallways and like they.
Oh, that was no. I'm talking
Fremen
about the
jump up from
sequence when Paul's having that fucking trippy like future vision.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. Like that was. I couldn't. Like that scene was over, and I'm like, I couldn't tell if I loved that or not. Because also it took me out of it for a second. Not out of it, but I was just like, how is Timothée Chalamet's? I could like punch him and he'd just be like crumpled on the floor. And he's doing all these flips and shit. I'm like, okay, I like that they went with that angle of it, the way that he fights, because I was like, this is the only way that someone this like stature as him would be able to do this.
Well, I kind of like that we get the establishing scene with him and Josh Brolin early in the movie where we know he's been training in combat his whole life. This isn't like a fluke. And also too, there's a suggestion. It's not even really a suggestion. He's the chosen one, and there's a chosen one for a part of that is that he has these innate powers. I love that line where he knows how to like. I didn't really understand what she was saying. Like he know how to tuck his pants into his boot correctly or something. And she whispers about how like he'll know our customs. He'll do our customs as his own. And then like, I think that's the key to his messiah.
Absolutely. I mean, like the book goes a little bit more into that because we actually do see the thoughts of it. But basically, what they're saying is that like there was like a chosen one like in scripture for the planet, and it's finally kind of like, and they were like they're people just spreading messages, but now it's like, oh shit, he's actually like, and I like that I like it in a sense of I like kind of like, because I feel like we always get the chosen one and they're like just like good at these things, but I kind of like this way they're doing the chosen one where he's like he's gonna save everybody. I like the whole like he's kind of this religious type of figure. And the way that they're doing it, and not like from like an organized sense or like that, but it's like he's straight up like, oh no, he's like, it's always kind of cool to have like stories like this because you can straight up make up your own rules and be like, oh no, there's like something controlling everything. But that's just kind of I can talk to depth about like how fantasy does that really cool thing.
Well, I think there is a lot that like the stuff that Villeneuve pulls from the book, and obviously this is. I haven't read the book in a really long time, and I was planning to read it after the first movie, but now I think I might just not. I kind of loved going into this blank. But the thing that I remember about Dune is that, and I'm not the first person to say this, Dune is I think for especially sci-fi big sci-fi fans, science fiction book fans especially, it is a troubled text. I mean, it's I think it, and those are the best things to adapt, as I've said before. Like, the best things to make a movie or a TV show out of are things that are not perfect. I've said this about Game of Thrones a million times. Game of Thrones is a great idea for a show, and it is not written very well. Come at me, George R. R. Martin fans, if you need to, but he's not a very good writer.
I think this is a good, like, really good point about Dune, though, is because a lot of what's in the book is about it's not about the action. It's more about like kind of like the philosophical and like the discussions that are happening in the book, rather than it's about the personal moments and then the movie itself. And I mentioned this to Che beforehand. Maybe I said it during this. I can't remember, guys. We've been talking for a while. But like in the book, the destruction of the complex is like one line. It's like one line, one paragraph. It's really quick. And like when Paul and his mother like are flying through the Desert Storm, it's like one paragraph to the point.
Right.
But the way this film does it is like it uses
I think what you've described as one paragraph in one sentence is basically an hour of this movie.
Exactly. Exactly. And they like built, I mean, I don't even think the scene where I think the scene where like the worm eats the complex, it's not in the book. It's not written that way. In the book, it's like they discover that it's like tampered with. Like the balloon thing doesn't even show up in the book. I can't remember if they even save anybody in the book, but it's just like that something that's added on to it. And it ended up being one of my favorite scenes where they're just like flying over it and just looking at the worm like destroy it. Yeah. But yeah.
And just another like great character development, tells you a lot about Paul and tells you a lot about his father. Like the Atreides have to be generally good people, or else this story doesn't really work. And you have to be rooting for Paul, and you have to be rooting for his father, and then that's why his death is, and also because I just hate watching Oscar Isaac die in movies. It really breaks my heart. He dies. He's another one who dies a lot. He's not quite Sean Bean level, but
I think it works for him in the sense of being like he's showing up and he's just so fucking good. But it's like we can't keep you around.
Yeah, he dies in the end of Ex Machina too, right? Sorry to spoil.
Yes, he should.
7-year-old movie.
I mean, like he definitely doesn't get out of the fucking base, so I'm assuming he's dying. Fucking
and he maybe dies at the end of Annihilation. That's
he definitely died at least once in Annihilation.
That's true. At least once.
At least once, because that's not him at the end of the movie. But I loved his performance. Don't. I've already gotten over that movie. Don't make me think too hard about that movie, man.
It's great.
It fucks me up, honestly, just because like my brain starts hurting trying to understand what the fuck I saw.
It is a challenging watch.
It is
for a couple different reasons.
Yes, it is. What was I about to fucking say? I had one last fucking point. You distracted me with talking about Annihilation.
Sorry,
now I'm trying. Oh, but I was gonna say, like, I think like Oscar Isaac's like performance as Duke Leto, which in the book was like a good like he was a good character, but I think he kind of just, and I think that's on the book, but also his performance like part. You don't really see many characters like this who are like in these king like type roles where they're actually like good people to the point of like maybe very similar to Ned Stark, where he was like too good as a person to like exist in this world. And that's very much, I feel like that's like what Leto brought into this performance, because he just felt very like regal, and like he just played the part so fucking well the entire time. And even like on his death scene where he's like naked and strapped like on a chair dying, even the sense there, I don't know, it kind of felt more like he didn't feel like he was like, it didn't feel like any kind of humiliation to me. It was
the other thing that you need from that is like it makes, because of how good relatively the Atreides and especially Leto is Leto, I don't know how to pronounce it, in this movie, it makes the
right
what do they call it? The Harkonnens. Skarsgård. It makes Skarsgård's character so much more evil.
Actually, he's just called the Baron, so that's actually easier than saying Skarsgård.
Yeah, you're right. The Baron of the Harkonnen. I think I got that.
The Harkonnens. You got that right.
It makes the Harkonnen even more insidious and evil, and just sets them up for like, and I know I'm talking about this thing like it's an original piece of text, but either way, it sets them up as like this amazing villain going forward in this film series, which it's hard to get all of that establishing done, even in a movie that's 2.5 hours long, and we get invested in our two major characters, and then some other major characters going forward that we really weren't even in this movie. Essentially, weren't in this movie.
No, we're gonna it's like, and there's more characters to be added into it that are also good. And I'm also interested to see which actors are gonna pick for this, because now they're like, we have more money to just.
Yeah.
I'm sure the budget's gonna be equal, if not a little bit more, because I think it's very clear that this movie did very well during the period where everyone thought movies were dying.
Well, I wonder if it will be equal, not better, because even though Dune did pretty well box office wise, it still did poor compared to full opened movie.
But I think this this is just kind of us guessing at this point. But I mean, to me, it was like this did well, if not good, during this period of movies.
Yeah.
So in 2 years down the line, which honestly I don't think. I think honestly this was planned out as soon as the pandemic hit, like from the get-go of like how they're going to do this. Because it's like, I mean, even Disney's pushing back on some movies next year in 2022. I'm assuming that they think that movie theaters are going to be back to normal in 2023.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the reason why they didn't do back-to-back with this.
I also don't really know
Greenlight
how Warner Brothers is like calculating the importance of HBO Max. Like, this movie is on HBO Max. How many people signed up for it to watch Dune or all that stuff is those numbers will never be able to communicate to us. somebody in a boardroom is running the numbers.
What are you talking about? They don't know how to work these numbers. That's why they don't pay anybody for them. They have no idea what they're talking. Fuckers, fucking liars.
We can talk about how shit capitalism is. If
YouTube can count views, you can count views too, you fuckers. Oh, yeah,
no, Corey, that technology is exclusive to YouTube and Pornhub. Don't you know?
On that note.
Yeah, it seems like a perfect place to end.
I think that's a fine way to end our Dune discussion. Jay,
we will be talking about
Jay, these are two different podcasts. I'm sorry, this is two different podcasts. You got to put this as a part 1 and part 2.
How the fuck am I supposed to separate these two different podcasts? How?
What you put out the first one, yesterday's recording, you put out this one different.
We just started the podcast and we said, and we're back.
It's fine. Who gives a shit? We can just say that as our fucking get-go. Jay, do the plugs here. Do the plugs.
The plugs, in case this is a whole new podcast, because it's literally been an hour and a half. Please go follow us at Next Time on Pod on other social media platforms. Also, you can find us at nexttimeon.net. That's where all the archive podcasts, all the writing is. And most importantly, really helps us out. Go rate us 5 stars on all your social media platforms. And if you're watching this on YouTube, which you can check out in the description of the podcast if you're not, like and subscribe is what I'm supposed to say. So,
yeah, and you also can leave us comments there and stuff. Where we actually will see.
I don't intend to read those, though. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'll read them. We had one
Corey
comment.
Can read them.
I read one comment. The guy was like, "These fuckers are idiots." No, they didn't.
Is there a YouTube comment on the video?
One comment.
Oh, okay.
The guy was like, "You guys," they were like, "Yeah, they. What are we doing?" All right.
I've been Che.
I've been Corey.
We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.